What's going on, world? Welcome back to another episode of the Plants and PRs podcast. My name is Tyler Egan, and I will be the host of this episode and the next episode and the next episode and probably every episode until Joe Rogan decides to call me on for like a co-host position, but that's probably a couple years down the road. For those who are new here, new to me, new to my content, I am a NASM certified personal trainer. I am a volleyballer, a vegan athlete, and a huge health and fitness advocate. Today, I want to talk about nutrition a bit more. I wanted to do it like 2 episodes ago, but then if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see I got a new mic. I was pumped about it when I came in, so instead of finishing, like getting this episode ready, I just kind of I did the last episode, so if you listen to that, it's about community and why I think we need the gyms right now and stuff like that. Although given the circumstances of the world, it might be a little bit different. But yeah, it was just all about community and stuff like that. So if you haven't listened, go check that out. But this episode, I finally decided I was going to sit down and talk about nutrition a little bit. I had been talking to some of my friends about it. I ran a couple polls on my Instagram page and just talked to a few more people online about it. And it just seems like, and I understand it because I was the same way for a while, that nutrition is a very big issue for people, or a struggle, if you will. First, you got to drink your water, so bottoms up. So after talking to people, I realized how much of a struggle it was. So I figured I would make an episode giving a little bit of basic information on nutrition in hopes that it may intrigue you a little bit to go do some more research yourself. I don't really, as the world is evolving so much right now, I've been noticing that I don't like forcing my opinions down people's throats. I'd rather people educate themselves in their own way, because that's what I like to do myself. So I hope the basic information I give you intrigues you enough to go to educate yourself a little bit more on it, because at the end of the day, this is feeding our own bodies, and I think we need to be a lot more mindful of what we're doing to ourselves on a daily basis and really take better care of ourselves. And I think that begins with what we put in our mouths. With all that being said, sorry for the rant. Let's start with the basics, because my goal here too is to help you find balance in your nutrition. It took me some time to get here, so be patient with yourself. Everybody's different. I mean, I'm 3.5 years into my journey, seriously into it, and it took me about 2.5, 3 years to get better with my nutrition. So be patient with yourself. So let's start basic. Let's start with the calories. What is a calorie? For those of you who don't know, calories are how you can judge how much food you're eating in a day. Calories are energy. That is my very basic explanation of what a calorie is. But I'm gonna Google it and we'll get fucking scientific up in this bitch. So what was I gonna do? What is a calorie, Mr. Google? A calorie is defined by the energy needed to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water through 1 degree Celsius. I don't like that. That doesn't help us here. What? All right, here we go. That's one thing I'm noticing about Google too, is you gotta ask the right questions. Okay, a calorie is the amount of heat needed to raise. What the hell? This same thing. Okay, calories in food provide energy in the form of heat so that our bodies can function. Our bodies store and burn calories as fuel. So that's how I kind of look at it. Our bodies store and burn calories as fuel. Many dieters count calories and try to decrease caloric intake to lose weight. Okay, so they beat me to the punchline already. The calorie deficit is how you lose weight, but more importantly, that's not what we're talking about here. I want to talk about more basic stuff. So with a calorie, like I said, it's energy. We need energy to perform functions throughout the day. Exercise, work, you probably need calories to think. I just don't know that kind of stuff that well. You have 3 basic macronutrients. You got fats, carbs, and proteins. I think we all get a little confused just because we know that there's fats, carbs, and proteins. Now, let me just say, there is a very distinct difference between carbs like white bread, Doritos. What else? Not that looking up in my cabinets are going to help at all, but any kind of chip and stuff like that. Macaroni and cheese. It's very different than eating like sweet potatoes and black beans and bananas because they react differently in your body. But that's not really the point here, because the word carb has been demonized so much. Like, I even had a conversation with a truck driver at work the other day about how he was asking me for some, like when COVID passes and stuff like that, he wants to start working with me. And as we're talking, like I could sense that he's like terrified of carbs, and it's just it's crazy the way that word's been demonized. So I'm gonna call them carbohydrates. So you got your carbohydrates, your fats, and your proteins. Carbohydrates provide us with fuel or with energy. They are our body's main source of energy. When we eat them, no matter what they are, I think for the most part, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong here, our body turns it into sugar, and then we use that sugar for energy. It also stores it. Our body stores carbs in the form of glycogen in our liver and in our muscles for energy later, and probably other things that I am not qualified to talk about. We also have fats, which are not just immediately stored as fat in our body like people probably think. I'm sure I felt that way a couple of years ago. The fat in our bodies keeps our organs insulated, I guess you could say. Keeps them safe. That's the way I look at it, to keep it very simple. We also need fats for hormone production. I don't know which one specifically. Again, way above my pay grade. Again, these are things that, like, if that really interests you, definitely go read into it. Like, if you have problems with your hormones or something like that, don't listen to me because I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but it's definitely worth looking into some of these things and understanding how our bodies react to the foods we eat and stuff. But we also will use fats for energy too. That's what the keto diet's all about. And I don't necessarily agree with that, but it's a thing. And then last we have protein. Protein is, I heard one doctor say it, is the building block of life. People think of protein because of, they immediately think of muscle, and it doesn't necessarily work that way. We need protein for a bunch of things. We all can also use protein in our body for energy in the absence of carbs. But to understand protein exactly, like you got to understand, protein is made up of a string of amino acids. I believe it's 20 to be exact, and 9 of those are essential, meaning our bodies cannot produce them. The other 11 our bodies do produce. And if my number's wrong, please feel free to leave me a comment and correct me and stuff like that down below, if you're on YouTube. But so 11 non-essential, 9 essential. The 9 essential we get from our diet, which is kind of where the vegan argument comes in. People think that plant-based protein sources are inferior because they don't have all 9 essential amino acids, and realistically, they're right. I think there's only a handful that do. Like, I think soy does, quinoa. Shit, what else? I think there's a couple more. Like, I mean, the protein powders most likely do. I think there's like 1 or 2 more, but they're not like Ezekiel bread. Like, it's nothing crazy. But with, an animal-based diet, you have chicken, eggs, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, realistically, on a plant-based diet, if you eat a variety of food, you don't even have to worry about it. I never really have. I mean, I'll pair rice and beans together because those two together make a complete protein source. But I do that because I like the combination, not because I'm worried about the protein. Each macronutrient is a little bit different in the sense of calories. When it comes to fats, they are 9 grams per calorie. I think that's how that works. And then carbs and protein, and again, if I'm wrong, please correct me. Carbs and protein are 4 grams per calorie. But that's why, fatty foods like nuts and seeds, you have to limit a bit more because they're higher in calories just due to the fat content of the food itself. When it comes to trying to find balance in your nutrition, you need to understand your calorie intake versus your calorie expenditure, meaning everybody's body is different. As some people know, everybody's metabolism works differently. So if you have a fast metabolism like I do, you may have to eat a bit more calories throughout the day to maintain your weight. If you have a slower metabolism, you might have to eat less calories. It's all about finding that balance for you. I'm working with a friend right now, and he didn't really follow, as far as I know, he didn't really measure his calories. And then we got him on a good routine, and he's seen crazy differences in his energy and all these different things. And you know, it's wild to think that like your food can provide you with a certain amount of energy. You just have to make sure you're eating the right amounts of it. That's why it's so important to figure it out. You can easily go on Google. I have my laptop right here. I'm gonna look it up. How many calories do I need to eat in a day? And you can find a calorie counting calculator, and you can figure it out. The first one I found is calculator.net. So I'll put my numbers in. I'm 26, I'm 5'10", I'm 155. I exercise a ridiculous amount. And they're saying to maintain my weight, I would need to eat 2,900 calories a day. To lose weight, 26. To lose even more weight, 24, and so on. Excuse me. So you can easily do that. You can then take the number they give you and try it out for a few weeks. See what your body does. Now understand, especially if you haven't been tracking calories before, that your body may react a little bit. You might put on a little weight first. You may not. You know, if you start to put on weight, maybe cut the calories back a little bit to the point where you're not putting on weight and you're just maintaining. Then you can find where your body is at calorie-wise, how much you need to maintain the current weight you have. And then from there, just subtract calories. Like, I would never suggest to someone to subtract more than 500 calories for weight loss. I believe there's 3,500 calories per gram or per pound of fat. I could have that wrong. So in theory, if you're in a 500 calorie deficit for 7 days, 1 week, then you should lose 1 pound of fat per week. I wouldn't recommend any more than that, because you might just start losing weight too quickly. And at that point, you can start, like I said before, you can use muscle or protein as energy. Your body will tap into your muscle for the protein to use as energy, from my understanding. Again, if I have this wrong, please correct me. I like to put out good information, and I'm just kind of winging this off the top of the dome based off of what I have learned. With that calorie expenditure, you have to factor in physical activity as well. If you're not exercising regularly or inconsistently, your calorie intake might fluctuate. So that's why it's important to, with understanding the amount of calories you need to sustain your weight, understanding where keeping a consistent workout routine. I also believe that you should really focus on real foods for these kind of things, because like I talked about before, some of the different effects of food on our body, and because it's more satiating to me, real food. I noticed for me, actually I just started noticing this a few weeks ago, that my body kind of gets weird. Like I get more addictive almost to things like sugar and shit like that when I'm eating it, obviously. I can't just, I was buying these Cliff protein bars, and I would just eat one a day, but I would just kind of crave it. So I was like, fuck that, I'm cutting it out. And I've been good ever since. I can maintain, I eat pretty clean, and I'm not craving shit throughout the day, I'm not even kidding when I eat in cleaner stuff, a sweet potato, what? A sweet potato is plenty sweet for me. It's crazy. It'll crave my sugar kick, or a date. Those, if I'm really craving something sugary, that shit'll do the trick. Throw some almond butter in there. Call it a day. Ugh. So good. Another tip that when it comes to staying satiated is protein. Now, people say that protein's more satiating. I've never really noticed it for me, but that's why all this is about, finding out what works best for you. I've never noticed it, but that's what a lot of people say, so it's definitely something to look into. Another thing with the real foods is the high fiber content. I've noticed that, higher, when I eat more fiber in a day, I am a bit more full. And you can't really load up. Like, if you're already feeling full from beans, you're not going to keep going. But, like, if it's like a chocolate cake, I'm going to keep going. Shout out to Vegan Treats because they have the best everything in the world. If you've never been there and you're a vegan, it's up in Allentown, PA, Bethlehem. I don't know, somewhere up there. Fucking awesome. I love that place. But it's definitely a place you have to like go every once in a while because I'll get hefty. Where was I? We are talking about nutrition still, aren't we, guys? Anyway, sorry about that. So with all of this, it really comes down to figuring out what works best for you. All of it. Like I said, you can easily go on Google and find a calorie tracking app, or not a calorie tracking app, I'm sorry. Well, you should download one of those. Chronometer's really good, and MyFitnessPal. I don't really like MyFitnessPal that well, but I just know it's a thing. Yeah, so you can go on Google, figure out how many calories you need to maintain your weight, and then test it out. You can also use those apps. I think they'll tell you. But like I said, it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. It's not 100% correct. You got to do your research. You got to test out, see what actually works best for you. Once you find that, and then you know what your goals are, then you can adjust from there. So again, subtract calories to lose weight, increase calories to gain weight, but don't go overboard either way because you don't want to lose way too fast or gain way too fast. Don't be afraid to treat yourself. Now, this doesn't always work for me because, like I said, when I get a lot of... Wow, excuse me. I think I just went through puberty again. When I try to treat myself, do an 80-20 thing. So when I say that, 80% of your diet's clean, 20% of it is, I guess, dirty or processed. When I try to do that, it never works well, man. I swear, this may sound crazy to some people, but sugar, everything negative fucks with my head. But if I eat too much sugar, it starts to mess with me. So I can't really do that much. The most I do is I have almond butter, and that is I guess the worst possible thing that I can eat that won't make me go crazy and craving shit. But you can do an 80-20 thing like that. I just don't have, I guess, the discipline for it. Other people may. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You just got to find out what works best for you and just find a good balance between it all. It will take some time. I'm never going to lie to anybody about this stuff. It's not as simple as you find the fitness influencer that's 23 on Instagram making it seem. This stuff takes hard work. This takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of mindfulness, and that's why people like me get into personal training though, because not everybody wants to put that effort in completely on their own, and that's perfectly okay. That's why people get into these fields. But I do believe that it's something that we should all focus on in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't, you don't have to go all in and be a nerd about it like me. You don't have to memorize all the vitamins and minerals and what kind of foods you can get them from and what they do in your body. I think it's just important to eat whole foods, predominantly plants. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm biased. But I think we should focus on more whole foods, figure out what works best for ourselves. Really pay, you don't have to track your calories all the time either. That's a point I should have hit on sooner. I don't. I will track my calories for a week, see how I'm doing, and then I won't do it for a month because I'm eating a lot of the same foods frequently. And if not, the one thing I'm doing is interchanging a different kind of bread or a different whole grain. So it's really not going to change that drastically. And then, once I feel like I'm getting out of hand, I'll go check them again. You don't have to go crazy with it. Find what works best for you. Again, this is not a one size fits all thing, but it's also not it's not going to be a cakewalk. It's going to take some time. So be patient with yourself and keep in mind what your goal is and what your focus is. I'm sorry, I cannot talk. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to me, because sometimes I just don't make any sense. But keep in mind what your goals are and focus on that, because you can't compare yourself to the other people. But it's something that we need to pay attention to, is our nutrition. It's probably just as important, if not more important, than our exercise and I got to be honest with you guys, my entire fitness journey got 10 times better as soon as I started focusing more on my nutrition. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I think I gave some decent information. I think I gave you guys a good step in the door. I hope you took something from this. If you did, please leave a rate or a comment or whatever on the podcast. I'm still working on getting it on Spotify and Google Podcasts. I don't understand Google Podcasts. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do me a favor. Go on your Google Podcast app if you have one and search the podcast. I can't find it, but they say it's up. I don't know. I'm waiting to hear back from Spotify. It is on Apple if you're watching this on YouTube. Podbean is a thing, but that's just like the main source to expand it. But yeah, I hope you took something from this. If you liked it, please share it. Do what I said before. Leave a comment on YouTube. Check me out on social. That'll also be below. And I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.